Dr. Morris here, having another show about building Starship Enterprise 1701 using Minecraft. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how to import the hull using 3D models. We're going to cover a couple different things. We're going to start off with about where you find 3D models. And then we're going to talk about an application called Binvox, which will help you voxelize or turn the 3D model into the individual bricks we see in Minecraft. Then we're going to talk about how we import that world into Minecraft by using another third-party tool called MC Edit. So let's get to it. First off, let's talk a little bit about where you get 3D models. There's many places all over the internet if you just Google around. I use Thingiverse, and I will put a link to all these websites in the show notes so you don't have to write it down. But Thingiverse is a 3D model open source website where people share all sorts of 3D models, all different formats. STLs are the preferred format, although you can work in OBJs. The good thing about this particular model is it's one piece. The previous model I'd used in earlier versions of the server were actually meant to be 3D printed, so the model was actually broken into several pieces that you had to put together. That's really good for 3D printing, so to speak, but actually the idea for us was to bring everything into Minecraft. Then to export it, still working on that. That's a work in progress, but as far as importing is concerned, it's better to work with a solid model. So here you just go to this website, find the particular model you like, and there's a couple different versions perhaps. Click the download, and it should actually give you formats that you would like to choose from. All right, we can go over here and just look at what the download actually is. It's an STL. Okay, it's actually a combination. It doesn't say because it's giving you both the object and the STL. I suggest you work with the STL. Another suggestion is that you give it to a professional who knows how to deal with cleaning up 3D models, make sure it's printable. In this case, it comes from the Thingiverse ready to print, but you might want to check the model and ensure that it's really good to go and has no problems with it. Anyway, once you've got your model downloaded, then you need to install a program called Binvox, which will help you turn it from a 3D model and voxelize it and turn it into a schematic that Minecraft can import and use in the 3D Minecraft world. There is perhaps more than one program, but one of the main ones is Binvox, made by Patrick Min, who's doing a really great job keeping this available for both Mac and PC. A couple things, patrickmin.com's website has the application for you to download. A couple things for Mac users like myself. You want to note that after you've put it in the directory where you're going to use it along with your schematics, you want to do a change mod. Without the change mod, I think you'll run into some problems with user rights on applications themselves. And then when you want to actually run the application, it's just //binvox to run the voxelizer, and same /viewvox to run the application, which will show you what the output looks like. Now, another thing is, I've noticed on a Mac, you can run this from a terminal, but I've had some errors pop up without installing Xquartz. Let's see, I've got a link here to show you some information about that. Xquartz is Apple Inc.'s version of the X server, a component of X Windows system for Mac OS. It's a framework for creating graphical user interfaces that work on a Unix-like system. So you will need to install this, I believe, first before you can get Binvox and Viewvox to work. But once you've done that, you go and just bring up the Xquartz terminal, which is here. And you just go over to the directory where you've got all your files. And in this case, we have the STL that we're working with here in my 3D folder. And I keep them in all one spot because usually you're running Binvox in the same folder as the files that you're working with. They'll output the same folder as well. You can then later move them around as you like. In this case, we're working with an STL file. It's called, you see here, 1701_v3.stl. This was given to me by my 3D service provider after he cleaned up the original Thingiverse file. And that's the one that we're going to voxelize. Now I'm going to go through some of the commands here with you slowly to show how this works. And we have here actually a very nice on the Minecraft Gamepedia server. Binvox commands are documented nicely. Basically, the most simple way to run this program is to just, from the prompt, binvox -d, d for dimension of the output. But I typically give it only one number, which makes a square. It doesn't really matter if you have open space in that square that it builds the voxelite version of your model. You can just move it around letter in Word Edit and place it where you want it. Ignore the parts that have nothing in them. Then you have a -t for the file type, specifies Vox a file type for output. Now if you don't put that here, you're going to get a binvox, which is okay in the beginning because you might want to just see what it looks like before you make the schematic version. It's got a few other file types that it'll output, but we're interested in schematics, which is the file types that are importable to Minecraft. We have this command, which is actually pretty important, RI. I use this all the time. Remove internal voxels. Why would you want to do this? For me, this is critical because in the earlier versions of my imports, I didn't use this. And if the model is empty, what will happen is Binvox will just fill in all the empty space within inside the model. Or if the model has thick walls, it'll build all those voxels, filling up all that space on the inside of your ship. And then when you try to build something in there, it'll be a nightmare carving it out. I've been there, done that, and don't advise you do it. So for all imports in the Minecraft, when you're building something that you have to work on the inside of it, which we do, you definitely want to do a -RI for remove internal voxels. The next command is CB, another nice command for center model inside the cube. If the model is not a perfect square, as it is in our case, it'll put the ship along one of the longest walls that it has. So if you're making it 256 by 256 and the ship is like a rectangular shape, it'll force it up against one of the walls and leave the rest of the space empty. So it's going to take the longest part of the ship and make that 256. If the other dimensions are shorter, that just remains empty space. So making CB centers it nicely, and when you import it into Minecraft, a little easier to find it and manipulate it. Then I have here some rotate Z's and X's, and this is just to make it a little bit easier to view when we output it, but it's not necessary. And then finally, your file type in question. So here we're making a schematic, but just so we can see what it outputs, we'll work with a command line where we're not making a schematic. So in this one, there's no file type. We have just the binvox dimension 128, which is fairly small, but it builds faster and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about without waiting around. RI, remove the inside, CB, center it, a couple rotations, and then the file type. This will make a binvox version of the file, so we'll hit enter. And now it's building that file there, you'll see here. And when it's done, it shouldn't take too long. And you'll see here it gives you a little bit in the terminal, it gives you some feedback. It did the X direction, it did the Y direction, and now finishing up that, it'll do a Z direction last. There, all done. Now it built a file, a binvox version 3_9, because I've been building a lot of them. It adds a number to every build. At this point, we can then use viewvox to see what that looks like. Let's go back. So it's /viewvox, name of the file. 1701_v38 becomes a 9 because that's our latest build. .binvox, and boom, there's our ship. Now if you want it bigger in Minecraft, you just have to make that dimension larger and it'll be a larger import into the final server. The terminal here gives you, by the way, the instructions, what the commands are. So if you want to see it from an X and Y position, here's a Y view, a Z view, an X view, and you can use your arrow keys and zoom in, and depending on the view you're in, they do different things. It's supposed to be rotate and zoom for the arrow keys, so I'll just rotate it a little bit, and I think the equal and the minus signs will rotate it for you in this case. So just to give you an idea, let's see if we can move in a little bit. It's a little slow because this is not the most performant on this machine, but this is the output we've got now from Binvox. Now, you might say, well, this is a little rough looking. If we were to build it a much bigger dimension, you get much nicer detail. So in our case, I've actually built a 900 voxel long enterprise. It's huge. It's about 250 high, and the saucer section is about 400 wide. So you'll see in the end how big this is when you bring it into Minecraft. It's quite large. And I'm trying to even think about 3D printing it out by scaling it down in the 3D world, but that's proving extremely difficult. Shows later about that. But you get an idea using Binvox here how to manipulate and see the output. So now we'll quit. If you want to finally build a version of this that we can import into Minecraft, we'll start with, we'll keep the same Binvox command. Output 128, that's okay. Remove the inside, center it. We'll do those rotations, but this time we will change the output file. We'll add a parameter here to the beginning, -t schematic. Boom. There. Now we're building this small version. Wait for it to output. Well done. Now I have a schematic called 3.8. To see this in Minecraft, now we go to a copy of MCEdit. MCEdit, like I said, is a third-party program which you can use to manipulate worlds offline. It is not for online changes. And in fact, if you try to do that, you'll have major problems. But let's see if you want to know where to download that. That is just from the mcedit.net site, which is over here. And you just download this pretty much and run it. It looks at the worlds you have in your saves folder, and then you can open up here like I've got a test world with a couple different ships. And like I said, I've imported very large versions of these ships in the past. So that's the ones you see here on the right and the left, slightly different sizes. In fact, this one on the left is the original ship I imported from the server. But let's just, as a little test here, I want to show you how we import the file we just made. We hit import. And of course, if you want to learn how to do this, more details on MCEdit, there are plenty of tutorials out there on how to do this, but I'm just, for the sake of getting this finished, I'll go through this once with you. We have in the 3D folder where we save the files. Let's go find that number 8. There it is. And we just say open. And it gives us a cube where it's going to place it, so you can move it around the screen a little bit, but I'm just going to put it here in front, left click. And now it builds it. A little slow on this machine, so you're going to move in, force it to recalculate, re-render all these bricks. Like I said, it's coming in at a slightly off angle, so we should be able to roll it, I think. And there we go. That is the version of the ship we just built using Binvox. Now it's a little rough looking, isn't it? Because it was only 128 scaled. It'll scale at any size you want. Over here, I've already imported a much larger ship, the model that we work with. And you see here a lot more detail. This is 900 voxels long. And when you do it at this size, this is the 3x size that we work at on this here server. And at this scale, and 3x means 3 voxels for 1 meter. Typically in Minecraft, 1 block is about a human meter. And at 3x, you get pretty decent looking ships. And it's the size we work in. So that's it. I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes, like I said, and hope this gave you a good idea how you can bring 3D models into your Minecraft world. And we'll have another quick show later with 8-Bit Spock, and we'll go tour this new ship that we've imported into our new version of the server that we're upgrading. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.